The call came in just before dawn, when the mountains around Florence, Colorado, were still black silhouettes against a dying night. No sirens. No panic in the dispatcher's voice. Just 4 words that made every federal agent in the room freeze. ADX has a problem. Inside the most secure prison on Earth, an institution designed to erase chaos, to crush escape, to neutralize the worst criminals alive, something had gone wrong. And that alone was unthinkable. At 5:42 a.m., Special Agent Daniel Mercer stood at the first security gate, watching steel teeth slide open and closed with mechanical precision. ADX Florence didn't welcome visitors. It swallowed them. Concrete walls rose like a fortress built by paranoia itself, smooth and cold, designed so no one inside could see the surrounding mountains, only sky. Even the sky was rationed. Mercer had spent 15 years chasing men who believed rules didn't apply to them. Drug lords. Terrorists. Contract killers. Many of them ended up here. ADX Florence was the final punctuation mark at the end of a violent sentence. And yet, this morning, the prison that claimed a 100% security record had summoned him like a crime scene begging to be understood. They escorted him through layers of checkpoints, retinal scans, biometric locks, doors that hissed shut behind him like airlocks in a sinking submarine. No one spoke unless absolutely necessary. Every correctional officer moved with rehearsed calm, but Mercer noticed the tells. A clenched jaw. A hand resting too long near a holster. Fear didn't belong here. Control did. Who found him? Mercer asked finally. Warden Helen Cross didn't look at him when she answered. A routine check. Cell D block, range C. D block. Administrative maximum housing. 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. Meals passed through slots. Showers alone. Exercise alone. No human contact unless it was controlled, monitored, and brief. No cameras in the cell. Mercer asked. They don't need them, Cross said. That's the point. They stopped in front of a thick steel door marked C-17. Inside was inmate Elias Crow. Or what was left of him. Crow lay on the concrete floor, eyes open, mouth frozen in a silent question. No visible wounds. No blood. No sign of a struggle. His bed was neatly made. His sink dry. His toilet unused. The cell looked untouched, sterile, orderly, compliant. Too compliant. Mercer crouched, studying the body. Crow was 38, former financial engineer turned organized crime logistics mastermind. He never pulled a trigger himself. He didn't have to. He moved money, orchestrated supply chains, buried evidence in numbers. His conviction had collapsed 3 criminal networks across 3 continents. He was supposed to die in this cell someday, quietly, from old age. Time of death? Mercer asked. Between midnight and 3 a.m., said the prison medical examiner. No toxins detected yet. Autopsy pending. No wounds. No poison. Locked cell, Mercer said. So how did he die? No one answered. That was when Mercer noticed Crow's right hand. It wasn't clenched. It wasn't relaxed. His index finger was extended slightly, pointing toward the wall. Mercer followed the line. There, carved faintly into the concrete, barely visible unless the light hit it just right, was a symbol. 3 vertical lines intersected by a single slash. Mercer straightened. What is that? The warden's face hardened. That shouldn't be there. Meaning? Mercer pressed. It means someone had time, she said. Time we don't give. ADX Florence was built on the principle that time itself could be weaponized against inmates, reduced, structured, controlled. Every second accounted for. Every movement logged. No privacy. No This corridor hasn't been accessed in months, an engineer said. There's no reason. He stopped. The door ahead was open. That alone was a violation serious enough to trigger congressional hearings. But what lay beyond was worse. A terminal had been pried open. Cables spilled out like exposed veins. Someone had spliced into the prison's nervous system. This isn't sabotage, Mercer said quietly. It's surgery. The engineer knelt, examining the work. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't shut systems down. They rerouted them. Rerouted them where? Cross asked. The engineer looked up slowly. Into each other. Mercer's phone buzzed again. Another alert. Communication loop detected. What does that mean? Mercer asked. The engineer's face went pale. It means internal signals are feeding back into themselves. The prison is listening to its own echoes. Mercer understood. So when we monitor inmates, we're sometimes monitoring the system pretending to be them, the engineer finished. A chill ran through the room. ADX Florence wasn't just watching inmates anymore. It was being manipulated by one. They secured the corridor and rushed back to Harlan's cell. The door opened with hydraulic reluctance, revealing a scene that looked eerily similar to Crow's. Neat. Orderly. Untouched. Except for the bed. A human shape lay beneath the blanket. Relief flickered, then died. The medical examiner pulled the sheet back. It wasn't Victor Harlon. It was Correctional Officer Luke Ramirez. Dead. Mercer felt the air leave his lungs. No, Cross whispered. He was on duty. Ramirez's face was slack, eyes open, lips parted as if he tried to speak. No visible injuries. No blood. Just like Crow. But there was something else. On Ramirez's forearm, carved with brutal precision, was the same symbol. 3 vertical lines. 1 slash. Mercer stepped back, mind racing. Where is Harlon? No one answered. They didn't need to. Because at that moment, the prison intercom crackled to life. Not an alarm. Not an announcement. A voice. Calm. Controlled. Familiar. Good evening, Agent Mercer, it said. Every head turned toward the speaker. Mercer's blood ran cold. Victor Harlon. Yes, the voice replied. Or at least, that's the name you know. Cross rushed to the console. Cut the audio. Now. The technician's hands flew over the controls. Nothing happened. It's not coming through the intercom, the engineer said, horror dawning. It's coming from everywhere. Harlan's voice continued, smooth and measured. You're wondering how this is possible. How someone disappears from a locked box. How a prison designed to break men failed to contain one. Mercer clenched his fists. You murdered 2 people. A soft chuckle echoed through the corridor. Murder is such an emotional word. I prefer proof. Proof of what? Mercer demanded. That control is an illusion, Harlan said. ADX Florence doesn't hold power. It borrows it. From systems. From routines. From people who believe rules are unbreakable. Cross shouted, You will surrender now. Another chuckle. Warden Cross, you and I both know that won't happen. Where are you? Mercer asked. Right where I've always been, Harlan replied. Inside. Screens around them flickered. Live feeds began switching rapidly. Corridors, control rooms, offices, always staying one step ahead of where guards rushed. You used Crow, Mercer said suddenly. Didn't you? There was a pause. Yes, Harlan admitted. Elias was brilliant. Obsessed with patterns. He saw the cracks before I did. But he hesitated. So you killed him, Mercer said. I needed his access, Harlan replied calmly. And his silence. Mercer's jaw tightened. And Ramirez. An unfortunate variable, Harlan said. He noticed the gap. Asked questions. Systems don't like questions. Mercer realized the truth then, and it hit him harder than any twist. You never escaped, he said slowly. You hid. Correct, Harlan said. I didn't leave ADX Florence. I became invisible inside it. Harlon had manipulated the prison's monitoring systems to create a ghost, a digital inmate who existed just enough to satisfy counts while allowing his physical movements to go untracked during specific windows. 7 minutes at a time. Enough to move. Enough to kill. Enough to plan. You can't win, Cross said, voice shaking. There's nowhere to go. I'm not trying to go anywhere, Harlon replied. I'm trying to show you something. The screens froze on a single image. A locked vault door deep beneath the prison. Do you know what's kept there? Harlon asked. The engineer's face drained of color. That's impossible. No inmate knows about that. What's there? Mercer demanded. Records, Harlon said. Black site transfer logs. Unofficial detentions. People who were erased before they ever reached a courtroom. Mercer felt sick. You see, Harlon continued, ADX Florence doesn't just contain monsters. It hides mistakes. Alarms finally blared, real ones this time. Unauthorized vault access, a voice announced. Cross spun toward Mercer. If he gets in. He already has, Mercer said. The feed switched again. The vault door stood open. And inside, the camera caught a final, chilling detail. The walls were covered in symbols. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Carved over time. This wasn't the work of one man. It was a message built slowly, patiently, by people who were never supposed to leave a mark. Harlon's voice returned. Softer now. You thought ADX Florence had a perfect security record, he said. But perfection doesn't come from strength. A pause. It comes from silence. The feed cut to black. And somewhere inside the prison, Victor Harlon stopped speaking. Which terrified Mercer more than anything he'd said. Because whatever Harlon was planning next, he no longer needed words to do it. Silence returned to ADX Florence like a held breath. Not the calm, engineered quiet the prison was designed to maintain, but a deeper, more dangerous absence. The kind that followed a confession no one was meant to hear. Every screen in the control room had gone black. Every automated process froze in a suspended state, neither locked nor unlocked. The prison wasn't failing. It was waiting. Agent Daniel Mercer stood in the center of the room, surrounded by armed officers who suddenly felt useless. Guns didn't matter when the enemy wasn't running, wasn't hiding, wasn't even speaking anymore. He's still inside the system, the engineer said, fingers trembling over the keyboard. I can feel it. Processes are active, just dormant. Mercer's jaw tightened. Dormant means ready. Warden Cross looked older than she had an hour earlier. What does he want? Mercer answered before anyone else could. To finish what he started. They traced the last signal to a sealed wing beneath the vault, a forgotten corridor omitted from most modern schematics. Built during the prison's earliest construction phase, it had been abandoned when newer containment models replaced it. A dead end. Or so everyone thought. The tactical team moved first, cutting through layers of security manually. No automation. No remote commands. Every door opened with physical keys and human hands. ADX Florence reverted to something primal. As they descended, Mercer couldn't shake the feeling that this was exactly what Victor Harlon wanted. The corridor smelled wrong. Stale air mixed with something metallic and old. The lights flickered weakly, revealing concrete walls scarred with faint markings, scratches, numbers, symbols that mirrored the ones Crow and Ramirez had died beside. This place was used, Mercer muttered. Officially, it never existed, Cross replied. They reached the final chamber. Inside, they found Victor Harlon. He was seated calmly at a steel desk, hands folded, posture relaxed. No restraints. No weapons. Just a man who looked like he'd been waiting. You're late, Harlon said. Every rifle in the room snapped toward him. Don't, Mercer said quietly. He wants that. Harlon smiled faintly. You're learning. Mercer stepped forward. It's over. Harlon shook his head. No. It's documented. Cross snapped. You killed 2 people. Harlon's eyes darkened. not with remorse, but calculation. I exposed 2 weak points. Mercer stared at him. You didn't need to murder anyone to prove your point. Yes, Harlon said softly. I did. Mercer felt the weight of it then, the truth that made his stomach turn. You needed bodies, Mercer said. Because without casualties, this would be buried. Classified. Forgotten. Harlan's smile returned. Exactly. The engineer stepped closer to Mercer, whispering urgently. Sir, he uploaded something before we cut the feeds. What? Mercer asked. Everything, the engineer said. Vault records. Internal audits. Transfer logs. They're already mirrored outside the system. Cross went pale. Where? Multiple dead drops, the engineer replied. Media servers. Oversight committees. Foreign watchdogs. Harlon leaned back. By the time this room empties, ADX Florence won't be a myth anymore. Mercer locked eyes with him. So what now? Now, Harlon said, you decide how this story ends. Before Mercer could respond, alarms erupted again, this time from the upper levels. Medical emergency in D block, a voice announced. Mercer spun. What kind of emergency? No answer came. They raced back through the corridors, tension clawing at every step. When they reached D block, officers were already gathered outside a cell. C-17. Crow's cell. The door opened. Inside lay another body. Warden Cross covered her mouth. It was the prison medical examiner. Dead. No wounds. No blood. And on the wall, freshly carved, was a single word. Continue. Mercer turned slowly toward Harlon, who had been escorted behind them. You said it was over, Mercer said. Harlan's expression didn't change. I said it was documented. Mercer felt something snap. You never needed to escape, Mercer said. You needed to prove you didn't have to. Yes, Harlon replied. ADX Florence survives on the belief that it's absolute. Untouchable. I showed the opposite. You used the system to kill people, Mercer said. No, Harlon corrected calmly. I showed you that the system already could. The truth settled like ash. Harlon hadn't introduced violence into ADX Florence. He'd revealed that it had always been there, quiet, procedural, invisible. Mercer stepped back. This prison, Harlon continued, doesn't rehabilitate. It doesn't even punish. It erases. And when you erase people long enough, they find other ways to exist. Cross whispered, You're a monster. Harlon looked at her. No, I'm a mirror. They took him into custody, this time in full restraint.